Great to see some friends here on stage. Tsvi, what I'd love to do is maybe just have you introduce yourself briefly. I actually do have a series of questions. I wrote the speaker guide, so I'm ready to go. But take a moment, share with us where you're coming from, and then maybe one word on innovation from the CTO's office. And also here, it's hard to hear in here, right? So you want us to yell? Is this better? Like speak really close? Let's get really close.
Okay. And one word will be hum. So my name is Tsvi, and as the name and accent suggest, I'm definitely not from Israel. I'm CTO for Morgan Stanley, and been in the financial industries most of my career in Merrill Lynch, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley. Innovation is a big thing that as we have the innovator's dilemma, the question is, can the companies innovate at all? And that's a good question. When I joined Morgan, one of the first questions that my boss's boss in the interview said, really, I want us to lead in innovation, because Morgan Stanley was always number one in technology. We were always the head of the street. Even today, in terms of our environment, I'll talk about it later on, we're definitely open source, always in the lead. So we really want to innovate. So my question to him was, when you say innovation, there are two ways to look at it. Do you want to pay lip service to the word and say, okay, we are innovative and we're going to let people send ideas and we're going to reward them, we're going to give them an iPad once a day and say thank you, and we're never going to do anything. So that's one way. Everybody will feel good. No, nothing will happen. Or do you mean it seriously? And if you mean it seriously, there is a different way of doing it, which is really invest in our people, provide them with the environment to innovate. Everything from ideation to acknowledgement of the fact that you may be the world's greatest technicians with best ideas, but you would rather go to Gulag in Siberia rather than write a business case. And that's okay. You may even have a partial idea, you don't have the entire idea, and that's okay as well. So what we are doing is we developed an entire process heavily using crowdsourcing and opening our labs to individuals to allow innovation to happen from friction of an idea all the way to full ideas, and we actually fund them. And we also accept something which is rarely accepted in any enterprise, which is failure. In other words, it is okay to try and fail. We will celebrate your attempt, and we're going to try again. And those are some of the things that we do, and later on, if you have time, I can give you some example of where it works and some example of where it doesn't.
So I am Lonne Jaffe. I am the head of corporate strategy at CA Technologies. And I've been there for about 10 months. Before that, for the last 13 years, I was at IBM, and for the last couple of years at IBM, I was leading the software mergers and acquisitions deal team that was focused on industry solutions. So I led more than half of IBM software acquisitions in 2011. And actually, the last thing I worked on before I left in 2012 was an Israeli company acquisition called Worklight. At CA, I'm responsible for acquisitions are a big part of my role, but also strategic minority investments, internal incubation, including we just kicked off a new project with the University of Tel Aviv. It's an interesting internal incubator based out of Israel, and we have, of course, about $3.5 billion or so each year in organic spending that we do on things like research and development and sales and marketing, and manage that portfolio spend. And probably the most interesting part of my role is focusing on the next generation disruptive technologies and figuring out how to take the company in those directions. So big data, mobility, the Internet of Things, the transition to DevOps, the changing role of the CIO, and the like.
That was a lot of comments. Let's harp on one of them. Internet of Things. I don't know what that means.
So the mobility transformation that's been going on over the last couple of years is important, and I think everyone intuitively understands it. The number of smartphones is going to outpace the number of people relatively soon, and that's all interesting. But there's also this phenomenon of the connectedness of physical objects. So it started out with industrial automation equipment and buildings and other things that were easy to computerize, but it's becoming even more pervasive. It's going to be in everything from medical equipment to even people. People are wearing devices. trillions and trillions of connected things, mobile to mobile, mobile to back-end systems. Creates a whole array of interesting business models and opportunities, and then a staggering set of management and security challenges, which is where CA focuses. But all of those create disruption, entire business models are being upended, and there's also a tremendous opportunity for both revenue costs, revenue opportunities and costs.
Tsvi, Rob has been talking about 10 years into the future, which I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, so 10 years is far. As a CTO, when you think, multi-year, what's exciting? What's coming down the pipeline that you think is going to change the way, the enterprise technology landscape is going to unfold?
So 10 years in the future, I can see Florida or...
Florida, why? It's doing good.
So, yeah. You're right, nobody can tell where it's going to be 10 years from now, but if we look at in the future, at least for the next 3 to 5 years, again, I'm a big believer in evolution, and while disruptive technologies do happen once in a while, and we do face them right now, more of a kind of a perfect storm of 3 of them at the same time, being cloud, mobility, and big data. I think that we're going to see continuous trend in those directions.
I'm going to actually pause you again. Define cloud and big data, which actually is a complicated thing to do.
No, actually it's not. Cloud is quite simple. It's for us. It's the utilization of data centers that are not owned by us, but that we could actually use the environment as ours. And this includes everything from IaaS, infrastructure as a service, where this is really an extension of our data centers, but it resides somewhere else, all the way to PaaS, which is the platform as a service, where we actually use some of the platforms and middleware and other services that they provide. That's my definition of our usage of cloud. Obviously, SaaS exists as well, I do not forget about it. And we are users of SaaS today with Salesforce and ServiceNow and some of the other ones. This will continue to be. We as a financial services company are not likely to offer SaaS type of services to our clients. We are not a software company, but we are definitely going to continue to be users of such.
I'm going to pause you there. So Lonne, you hear Tsvi talk about all this. Do you see dollar signs?
I do.
He's a big spender.
I mean, as Steve mentioned the last time we met with him, there's still a lot of data and gravity out there that makes it a little more challenging than people realize for traditional enterprise to just throw things back and forth between the cloud and on-premise. But there's a lot of activity, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to take advantage of the commoditization that's going on in the cloud infrastructure. If you move your workloads there, you can take advantage of that commoditization and benefit from it, as opposed to having to manage and secure all the systems yourselves. Big data is huge. I mean, we saw it start out in the consumer.
Actually, he didn't define big data. I'm serious. Define big data.
So the term.
We all hear it. I mean,
yeah.
Big data.
1996 was the first time it was used in a NASA paper. Right? There's the famous Google document in the early 2000s around MapReduce, which really kicked off this wave of technology innovation in Silicon Valley. It's really the underpinning of all big consumer internet companies, Twitter, Facebook, Yahoo, Amazon, and the like, is this new set of technologies that are a federated tool. The data comes in, you farm it out to an array of commodity servers, you do some replication, so there's redundancy, and then every server has its own compute and its own storage, so if you do computing in parallel, then you can get the familiar instantaneous Google search response. But it really crossed over within the last few years into what I'll call grown-up companies. So you see financial services companies are using it to do front office things like finding investment opportunities. Cities are using it to predict traffic patterns. Seeing healthcare companies use it to aggregate patient information and predict which treatments result in the best outcomes and deliver that to the clinician at the point of care in a way that's not disruptive, like on an iPad. And retailers are using it to figure out how much to set the price of milk because it's located physically close to the bread or across the aisle from the bread, and you understand.
So let me pause you there. I think that sounds scary. I think we're taking a lot of data and we're putting it in less secure environments, and bad guys in some third, fourth, first world country are going to want to access it. Tsvi, does that sound scary to you?
Yes. Again, let me start with a little bit of variations on the definition of big data. First of all, everything is obviously theory of relativity. We in Wall Street used to think ourselves as the big guys, the 800-pound gorillas. When we look at the amount of data that we have and compare ourselves to the Facebooks of the world, Googles, etc., we have small data, not really big data, only mid-sized data.
Can you quantify what big?
Yeah, that's what I'm going. So for me, the definition is more of the usage of data, which is analytics, graphics, and those type of words that you do with data, which is not necessarily structured data. When we used to say data, we meant SQL. Now we use structured and semi-structured, which basically means either total flat files, you cannot find anything in unstructured, or semi-structured, which are in spreadsheets, documents, and so on. And the ability to really analyze this data and come with conclusions and plans is something that is quite interesting. To your question about scary, the answer is yes to quite a degree, in the sense that, as you know, your privacy is being reduced every day as is. We can find almost everything about you on the internet if we really want to. And now you're basically just providing the tools to do it even faster and deeper. So there is definitely a concern of such, but that's more of an external concern. Internally, the usage for us is similar to what Lonne described, but also in terms of finding the right tools and the right investments, I mean, after all, we're a bank, for our clients, and compare it to what others are doing in the world and so on and so forth. So for us, the usage is much more timid than really to identify every move of your life of such. Although we are sure that there are people right now in China that are cracking into every system possible and doing their own work.
So, Lonne, let me hinge on that. Tsvi said investments. As part of your role doing corp dev, what excites you in terms of startups that may be able to round out a portfolio, and how do you think of where should CA be acquisitive and where should you, let's say, build organically?
Yeah, I mean, this is related to your question about scary, because where we see, yes, it's scary, but it also represents huge business opportunities for a company that specializes in management security software. And there's a lot of need for that in these disruptive areas, right? Mobility, Internet of Things, big data, they all have this quality, the scariness quality, and everything needs to be managed and secured. This relates also to Israel, which is one of the hotbeds of innovation in these spaces. We see, obviously, Silicon Valley and a couple of other focus points, but some of the most exciting stuff is going on there. And as the Israeli companies grow, they sometimes have time zone challenges or cultural barriers or just lack of senior executive talent that makes it such that a large strategic like CA can generate a lot of value through the acquisition. And it's not just acquisitions or minority investments, it's also internal incubation. So you can set up little fortune off areas within the business that function a lot like a startup, where there's a little mini CEO who can pivot and change directions, and you can shut it down when it's not working. But you take the percentage of spend you have focused on that incubator, and you keep that constant over time. So when you shut something down, you roll it into another next generation security opportunity around it.
I got my MBA at NYU. I spoke on campus last week, and so we're going to play a game called 60-Second MBA. You guys ready?
No.
No, and I know you're not ready. I'm not even the moderator. You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Ready? 60-Second MBA. Tsvi, a startup walks in your door and wants to sell to Morgan Stanley. Your advice to them is?
Well, depends what they have, but first of all, the advice for Israeli companies: please don't start with your history down. Basically, that's advice number one. Advice number two: please don't define for me my problems. Okay, come in and say, well, those are your problems. I say, not really. No, you don't really know. Those are the problems. Okay, fine. No, but seriously, I think that from our perspective, we are actually great believers in startups. We still use many of them. We always explore opportunity with them. If you have the right technology, if you answer to some of the issues that we are really dealing with, that are some of the major issues that we have, we will be listening. We'll bring you to our labs. We're going to give you an opportunity there. Now, one thing that you need to know is we are a big, bad bank, which means it will take a long time to go through our process. So if you don't have the oxygen for the long run, don't start it. We are not going to finish the discussion within 3 days and buy a product from you. But if you have enough air to run with us, and you have the right product, we actually will. By the way, just one comment that I'm extremely impressed with the fact that we have milliseconds in the clock here, because that's the way we measure our response times. It's really critical.
Lonnie, 60-second MBA. I love Israel because.
Yeah, the synergy narrative for an Israeli startup is actually pretty compelling. So the idea is fantastic technology, it's selling pretty well, it's got a tremendous strategic value, it's a sustainably high barrier to entry thing, but it doesn't have the right channel and go-to-market associated with it, right? So you pick it up within a very short period of time, you're pumping it through a global channel, you're giving it lift, it's giving your offerings lift, it's taking you forward. You allow a lot of venture capitalists to take the risk, you just come in when the company is past the is this a good idea stage, and you're able to scale it up pretty dramatically. And that allows you to pay the premium you pay in order for it to do that.
Follow-up question. I hate Israel because.
The environment, like any startup culture, is one where the companies focus a lot more on growth and technology than they do on boring things like earnings and profits. And that can be a little bit challenging, especially focusing in on the early stage. But that's just from our perspective, that allows us to work with the companies for a while as they grow up, and then sometimes you end up paying a little bit more in terms of capital, but you end up getting a more mature company.
I would just add to this that obviously, being Israeli, Israelis knows everything. There are no questions. We always have all the answers. And sometimes it's hard to work with people that know everything. I don't know everything. And that's part of the difficulty working with Israeli companies. Also, there is this belief that when they start to do business in the US, there are several ways to do it. The first one is we're going to sell to friends and family. And they pick up the phone, well, you're in Israel as well, why won't you buy from us? Because your products suck. Okay, but why do you care? Because your products suck. Anyway, so that's one thing. The second thing is the belief that they can migrate or immigrate people from Israel to run sales in the US. And once I was giving a speech in Israel, and I said, why do you think you can sell in the US? I mean, what do you know about the American market? Do you have any connections? I mean, Rolodex is all Israeli ex-Mamram people. And the answer is, what do you mean? Of course I know the American culture. I watch TV.
Homeland, that's an Israeli show. Let's make it interactive. 2 great questions. I'll keep asking. I'm having a good time here. Anybody? 2 great questions. 1 great question.
Yeah, what happened to him?
What happened to him? He's in the hallway. I told him not to come. I'm having too much fun. Next, seriously. Yeah, please, Kirsch.
Everyone's talking big data these days, and all the early stage companies have big data in their name now, just like .com and the 80s. The question though is, we have had data mining, we have had data analytics, we have all kinds of stuff which nobody really used. So why is they suddenly going to start using big data now when they've never used some of the building blocks to getting to big data in the first place?
Do you guys hear that question? Is big data real or fake?
Well, I think it is real because we have, first, much more data than we ever had before. And it's hard to convert data into information, and to convert information into decision-making, valid information. So that's one of the reasons that we actually believe that big data is real from this perspective. And yes, of course, everybody calls themselves big data, cloud, and mobile all in the same place. I mean, I had companies that deals with eFax that send me a note that they are now a cloud company. Why? So that's true. There is a lot of buzz in it, but actually, I do believe that it is real. I think that the usage of Hadoop, MapReduce, is allowing us to do things that we were not able to do before because of the parallel nature of it and the speed that we can actually access a tremendous amount of data. When before we had to run those queries that you're talking about. With business object, those type of things, it will take hours to get a response. Now it will take seconds. Now we can actually look at things that we have not done before. Furthermore, because of the analytics and graphics capabilities that we have today, we can find trends and answer questions that we didn't even ask. Because suddenly a certain trend appears and we say, okay, what does this mean? It's one of those things that we get the answer without knowing what we are asking for because of the way it's built, and which allows us much more openness in terms of look at the data that we ever had before.
Please.
So when you look at the combination of mobility, cloud, and big data, it's traditionally opening up much larger holes from a security and privacy perspective. And usually, once that happens, it's usually followed by government getting involved in compliance and regulation, which potentially stifles innovation. So how do you see that as a longer-term trend, both for CA and
Lonne?
So I think it does have a result in increased regulation, but it also fosters innovation because there's innovation that gets fostered around solving those security and management challenges, which can be really interesting. And we're seeing this explosion of techniques and mobility now that were not heretofore possible. This is actually related to the last question around why big data is getting popular now. Commoditization has a lot to do with it. There's a subtle thing that happens at some point when the technology gets cheap enough and easy enough to use, then something that's been around for 5 or 10 years and hasn't really caught on, suddenly everyone starts building applications and it becomes this versatile platform. Mobility, we're seeing that, the techniques like application wrapping, inserting code into the application to lock it down, to geofence it, to keep it from posting your customer list to Facebook or your terrorist watch list, gets locked down and wiped when you leave the CIA. Even though you still have your phone or if it gets stolen, those types of technologies themselves are where the innovation gets attracted to when the regulation comes in and starts to get involved.
All right, so it's our last minute. Closing arguments. No one here is an attorney, right? Ready, Lonne? People should do business with CA because?
CA is the second largest pure enterprise software company in the world after SAP that doesn't have a consumer business or a hardware business or a consulting business. And focused entirely on management and security software. So really nice strategic partner for a company that wants to work with us in one of those other roles.
Lonne's a nice guy.
Yeah, now we're at Credit Suisse, and with all thanks to our host here at Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley is as good or maybe better than Credit Suisse because Morgan Stanley is a great place to work because
it's innovative. It's on the leading edge of technology. It has respect for people. It has respect for thinking outside the box. And when it comes to startups and small companies, that's how we make our living. So come to us with M&As. That's what we do.
And again, I'll thank Credit Suisse, but thank you, Credit Suisse. They've been unbelievably great. So when you see them here, shake their hands too. And with that, my time is done. It's not even my time, which is why this was great. Thank you guys. This was excellent. Thank you very much.